Have you ever seen your dog bark at someone for seemingly no reason or refuse to go anywhere near that person? In that moment, you probably thought, "What's gotten into them today?" and moved on. Maybe you scolded your dog, maybe you felt embarrassed, maybe you just shrugged it off and kept going. But I need to ask you something. What if your dog was completely right in that moment? What if they had already figured out something you couldn't see, couldn't hear, and couldn't detect in any way? For centuries, people have talked about dogs being able to sense bad people. But is this just a legend, or is there real science behind it? Today's video is going to be about exactly that. We'll go through how dogs read people, what science has to say on the subject, which mechanisms kick in, and whether you've been missing the signals your dog is trying to give you right now. And I'll tell you this, some of it is going to genuinely surprise you. Before we get into the video, if you're curious about the abilities dogs have that leave people speechless and you don't want to miss this kind of content every week, hit the subscribe button right now and don't forget to tap the bell icon next to it. Let's get started. Let's begin with the first and most fundamental point. Smell. A dog's sense of smell is 10,000 to 100,000 times more powerful than a human's. When you hear that number, it can feel abstract, so let me make it concrete. A human smells the general aroma of a large pot of food cooking. A dog smells every single ingredient inside that pot, every spice, every component, separately and simultaneously. Researchers at Florida State University described this power like this. If you converted it to vision, it would mean a dog could see something clearly from roughly 3,000 miles away that a human could only see from a third of a mile. This is why dogs today can detect cancer patients, diabetic crises, and epileptic seizures before medical devices can, and they are actively used in the medical field for exactly this purpose. So why am I telling you all this? Because when a person is stressed, frightened, angry, or feeling guilty, their body changes on a chemical level. Cortisol rises, adrenaline enters the bloodstream, the composition of their sweat changes, their breathing shifts. You can't see any of this, but your dog smells all of it simultaneously within seconds. When a person approaches with bad intentions, they are almost certainly experiencing some kind of internal tension. Maybe they're anxious, maybe they're calculating something, maybe they're working hard to control themselves, maybe they're hiding something. All of this emotional state leaves chemical traces in the body, and those traces mix into the air. Your dog's nose reads those traces. No matter how much that person smiles, no matter how calm their voice sounds, no matter how still their hands are, the emotional state they're carrying cannot lie to your dog. This is why when your dog gives an unusual reaction to someone they don't know or barely know, they're not reading that person's face. They're reading their chemistry. And chemistry never lies. But smell doesn't work alone. Dogs also analyze body language much faster and much more deeply than you ever could. Research conducted by Julianne Kaminski and her team at the University of Portsmouth found that dogs don't passively observe human facial expressions, they actively track them. In other words, when your dog looks at you, they're not just seeing you, they're analyzing you. Furthermore, Kaminski's research showed that dogs deliberately use more facial expressions when they want to capture a human's attention. This is not a one-way relationship. Dogs are watching us, and we are watching them. Hundreds of thousands of years of this mutual observation have made dogs one of the most skilled animals on the planet at reading human behavior. The way a person walks, the position of their shoulders, the duration and direction of their gaze, the tone of their voice, how their hands move, where they stand, when they step forward. All of this is information that your dog continuously processes, evaluates, and accumulates. And if a person is thinking about posing a threat or doing something with bad intent, their body will almost certainly betray them without their awareness. A slight tension, a subtle shift in gaze, a small difference in the way their muscles hold. You might not notice this because your social courtesy filters are running. Your dog has no such filter. They simply see what they see and respond accordingly. Now, let's get to perhaps the most fascinating part. A dog's sense of hearing. Dogs can detect a far wider frequency range than humans are capable of hearing. While humans hear sounds roughly between 20 and 20,000 Hz, dogs can reach up to 40 to 65,000 Hz. That gap is enormous. Researchers say this hearing capacity is theoretically sufficient to detect a human heartbeat at close range. While there is not yet a large-scale study that directly proves this, it is well established that dogs are extraordinarily sensitive to bodily sounds and vibrations, and this area continues to be actively studied. And if they really are doing this, it carries a very significant meaning. Because a heartbeat doesn't lie. The heart of a person under stress, anger, or tension beats in a different rhythm. This biological change is invisible to the eye, undetectable through conversation, and cannot be hidden behind social masks. You may sometimes notice your dog suddenly turning cold towards someone who has been around for hours, someone whose face is smiling, whose voice is calm, who seems completely normal to you. That person may have controlled everything about themselves, but fully controlling their body is a much harder thing to do. So do dogs only give instant reactions? No, and this is very important. A study led by Akiko Takaoka at Kyoto University found that dogs actively test human reliability and remember the results. In the study, dogs were signaled that there was food inside a container, they ran toward it, but the container was empty. When the same experiment was repeated, the dogs refused to follow that person's signal anymore. They had understood that this was an unreliable person, and they had stored that information in their minds. What Takaoka said during the research was also striking. The speed at which dogs questioned a person's reliability surprised even the researchers themselves. Think about that for a moment. Dogs remember people who behave inconsistently, whose words don't match their actions, who don't keep their word, and the next time they approach those people with far more caution. People who are warm to your face, but completely different behind your back, who smile at you, but whose behavior doesn't reflect it, gradually fall off your dog's list of trusted individuals. And this is not a deliberate decision for the dog, it's instinctive learning. They evaluate every encounter they experience, accumulate it, and reach conclusions. And now we come to perhaps the most human, most touching dimension of all this. Dogs aren't just watching one person's own behavior, they're also watching how that person treats you. A study published in the journal Neuroscience and Biobehavioral Reviews found that dogs refused to accept food from a stranger who had refused to help their owner. In the experiment, the owner was trying to open a box and asked two strangers for help. One helped, the other refused. Afterward, both people offered the dog food. The dogs who accepted food from the helpful person flatly refused to take it from the hand of the one who had said no. The researchers described this as third-party social evaluation and emphasized that this ability was previously thought to be exclusive to primates. How did the dogs reach this decision? By watching how their owner was treated by other people. By measuring whether you were being valued or not. Maybe you brush something off. Maybe you say it doesn't matter. Maybe you don't even notice. But your dog sees how you are seen. They record the respect, the attention, the kindness shown to you, or the absence of it. And they choose sides accordingly. Your side. So knowing all of this, how do you recognize when your dog is actually giving you a warning? First, it's worth noting that dogs have their own fears, traumas, and learned reactions from the past. Not every bark is a warning. Not every tension is a sign of danger. But pay attention to this. If your dog is giving the same reaction to a specific person, not just once, but consistently, every single time they encounter them, it may not be a coincidence. Hackles rising, tail down but body tense, refusing to approach that person or take food from them, a low and sustained growl, never taking their eyes off that person. And all of these reactions repeating every time they encounter the same individual. These are signals that deserve your attention. Don't look at the isolated reaction. Look at the pattern. The pattern tells you a great deal. And most of the time, looking back later, you find that your dog was right. This animal, which has lived shoulder to shoulder with humans for thousands of years, warned the pack of danger, kept watch on dark nights, and stood beside us in our weakest moments. Ignoring their instincts means ignoring what may be the most reliable detector you have right at your side. There is one thing your dog simply doesn't have: the concern for being polite. They don't hide their judgment to seem likable. They don't change their mind to be approved of. They don't give in to social pressure. They evaluate who a person is, what they carry inside, and what they make you feel, through smell, through sound, through observation, and through memory. They use all of these tools simultaneously, and they show you the result without hesitation, without delay. The next time your dog gives an unusual reaction to someone, before you silence them or scold them, pause for just a moment and ask yourself, maybe they know something I don't? Thank you for watching this video. If you found it useful, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. If you or someone you know has had an experience like this with your dog, write about it in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. See you in the next video.